This is Eric Andrews, CWF Worldwide Television Champion. You're listening to the official, unofficial CWF Worldwide After Show.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Oh.
We didn't
I
see
keep
doing the Brown Suns, oh, God thing.
For going on 2 years now. The guys here on the network make fun of me for it, no less.
Trevor Lee!
There you go. The host, ring announcer, sometimes brilliant commentator, the lovely CL Party. CL, how are you doing tonight?
I am great. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
The technical director of CWF Mid-Atlantic, the one and only Grant Sawyer. Thank you for joining us, Grant. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me back, buddy. I'm happy to fill in because, I'm just sitting around listening to you guys anyway.
I could be in that building at Absolute Justice and cut a fart.
Mm-hmm.
6 years later, they're going to be like, whatever happened to that badass Joe White sitting in the third row cutting farts?
Right.
Everything fucking means something in this place, and I love
It's what
it.
you want, White.
You're supposed to remember shit.
Mm-hmm. They don't insult your intelligence.
Damn right they don't. None other than the one, the only, Sis. Sis, how are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic.
Is Johnny P. John Philip Pavage is going to be joining us. How are things going?
Oh, good. I got a break from editing because you're calling me.
Okay.
So
I have to
I still
ask.
have to do everything. It's just that I get to pace myself better. I guess.
I have to ask because you mentioned it.
Yeah.
What are you editing? Again, that music can only mean one thing. We are joined by the current, reigning, defending, rising Generation League champion of CWF Mid-Atlantic, and that is Mr. Kane Justice. What's up, Kane?
What's up, guys? And by the way, it is the record setting. I've defended the belt 8 times.
There you go.
More than anyone else in history. All about Kane now, man.
Bruce Mitchell is joining me right now on the line. How are you, Bruce?
This week I have done shows with Wade Keller, J.J. Dillon, and WWE Hall of Famer, another WWE Hall of Famer, Stan Hansen, Gerald Briscoe, WWE Hall of Famer, Jim Ross. And now the highlight of the entire run is built to this been like a great wrestling program. I've been climbing that ladder, and now I'm here on the blow-off show, the blow-off match. You're it, man. You transcend all those guys.
I was going to go the opposite of that and say, look how the mighty have fallen.
No. I had to build my way to this show, the CWF.
I appreciate
Unofficial,
it, sir.
official.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Oh, come on.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Come on.
You got Cecil on the air going, oh, maybe it won't be one of these guys that's here. Maybe it'll be a new guy to dethrone him. Well, how about this, Cecil? Nobody's going to dethrone him. How about that? That's right, Trev.
I love this show.
This is CL Party welcoming you to the unofficial CWF Worldwide After Party with Joe White.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic After Show. I am Joe White. We're going to be here tonight covering episode 124 for the record. And what an episode it was. What 2 matches on this show. 2 very good matches on this show. Joining me tonight as my guest co-host is, I guess we can call him good old JB, Jeremy Bryan here. He has been probably a CWF fan longer than I have, and he's also the co-creator and how would you describe it? I guess he's the co-conspirator, co-promoter of the upcoming CWF Mid-Atlantic Fan Con that is taking place October 13th and 14th. Follow at FanCon CWF on Twitter for more information, or you could follow JB or Johnny P. John Philippavage. Their Twitter handles are scrolling at the bottom of your screen for more information. JB, how you doing tonight, man?
Excellent, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. I guess we can address the elephant in the room a little bit here, because it is kind of CWF related in the fact that they have a commercial that airs on it, but this is kind of some breaking news within the last couple hours. Apparently, according to the quote-unquote dirt sheets out there, the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, and I'm guessing along with Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, have been slapped. They've been doing this deal on being the elite for a couple of months now about how they've quote-unquote, had cease and desist letters from the WWE that tell them that they cannot, they kidnapped Hangman Page, and they can't say suck it, and they can't say too sweet, and Cody Rhodes can't have his last name, which is legit. But now it appears that them quote-unquote, invading Raw this past Monday was the last straw, because apparently, again, this is according to the dirt sheets, so take it however you want to, folks. The WWE has slapped the Young Bucks, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Pro Wrestling with a cease and desist order, saying that they can no longer use the Wolfpack Too Sweet Me symbol at all. WWE's claiming that it is their IP. They can no longer use it in merchandise or anything, so I guess now the Too Sweet Me shirt that I sometimes wear to CWF Mid-Atlantic shows is a collector's item? It's an antique?
It's at this point, Joe, and let's hope that Mr. McDevitt's not listening to our conversations.
I don't care. Make me famous, McDevitt.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say.
Absolutely. The reality is, we're living in a time where, of course, hot button issues are everywhere, and it's easy to pick up a lawsuit. But my goodness, please, guys, Bucks, Cody, the Elite, New Japan, Ring of Honor, everybody included. Let's be creative. Let's go with something else. Mm-hmm. Take this and spin it into something else. Use it. It's free publicity. I mean, honestly, having the WWE talk about you in a public forum. I believe Ryan Satin's the first one who picked it up on his ProWrestlingSheet.com website. The story. Any publicity is good publicity. Spin it, use it, try to use it for something else. Don't look at it as a pure negative. And maybe it's time to kind of move away from the quote-unquote borrowed past of the NWO and DX and try something new. Hey, it can happen.
Is JBL caught in a well? Send hope. Sorry, wrestling guy.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. You're coming across on my end just fine.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me try to adjust something here. It's good old Skype. That's the problem.
I gotta love Skype.
Yeah. Give me 1 second here, folks. Should have fixed it, but okay. That's as best as I could do, folks. Go ahead and say something. Let me know if my levels here are reading okay.
I can hear you, but you're a little low.
How about now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. That's as best as it's going to get, folks. Sorry if you can't hear him. I'm hearing him fine. He says he sounds tiny. Look, I say it every week. The needles don't move on my end. Grant says it sounds fine. So Grant's the technical director, so he says it sounds fine. I trust Grant.
All right.
But anyway, continue your thoughts there. I mean, it's time. Go ahead.
I think at this point, it's you have to look at this as a positive if you're the Bucks and ROH and New Japan and just spin it however you can. I mean, I look at it in a political atmosphere. Use it for what it is. It's publicity. In the end. Try to use it as a momentum to pop up. I mean, they had a little bit of social media movement with, of course, the quote-unquote invasion of Monday Night Raw, which in reality wasn't much of an invasion. It was what seemed like, a couple hundred people in black T-shirts walking from the local Hot Topic down to the arena.
Yeah.
That's not me making fun or making light because I'm an old man who just enjoys old school wrestling. It's more or less time for them to move on, and we've said that enough already in this, and I've said it probably 5 or 6 times. Move on, spin it, try to do something with it. Don't wallow in the fact that I can't throw up the Too Sweet anymore. I can't do this, I can't do that because Big Bad Vince came down on top of me. It's time to move on. And I think it's run its course already.
So it looks like CWF, how this relates to CWF is they can no longer, if this is true, they better take that promo out of all those damn Well, I mean,
I didn't see it tonight. Did you?
I didn't see it tonight, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't try to stick it in there next week. And the less I see of them, the better. So I mean, that's all I can say.
That's fine. That's fine. And I think that we can come up with other creative material. Hey, get our boy Johnny P on something. He can figure out something. He's a creative wizard.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. I know you're wanting to move on from this, but I gotta say it. I was talking with somebody on Twitter tonight, and we were talking about it, and she goes, "Can't really blame them. They were original for 10 years before the Too Sweet Me stuff, and nobody cared about them. Well, guess what? You got to come up with something else. Be original, guys. Be original." And the Young Bucks are sitting there. Yeah, they're pulling it, says Grant. So wow. This is already reaching the far reaches of the indie wrestling planet, if you will. But let's talk about episode 124. Actually, before we talk about 124, let's get into FanCon. That's why we got you on here. You got some. You were talking with the top brass at CWF Mid-Atlantic today.
Yeah, we had a bit of a conference call. Things are moving along greatly. We're excited about the whole prospects of what's going on. Considering how quickly all of this really came together, John, Philip Abbage, and myself are very happy with things as they are. We look at this as almost a trial run, like John has mentioned before on your show. It's something that we're trying to grow. This is a fan experience by fans for the fans, but with the total conjunction of CWF and CWF management, who have been great about helping us out all along the way. One of the things that I can announce tonight is I kind of want to run through our Q&A panels and who will be involved with that. And also, at the top of this goes for anybody. According to CWF management tonight, the first 30 people who have purchased tickets to the show are going to be entered into a random drawing for a grand prize at the show. So that's kind of cool.
I don't know if I'm one of them. Probably not, because I bought my ticket late last week.
I'm not sure, but after talking to management tonight, we have people as far away as Minnesota and Texas and even California who have bought tickets for the show.
Minnesota, home of my ex-wife. Ooh.
Yes, you got one of those too, huh?
Yeah. I sent her back to Minnesota, for crying out loud. But come to FanCon, eh?
Just thinking the sheer fact that we've got people from that far away who have shown interest or coming in for the show says a lot about CWF Mid-Atlantic and also about the reach that this FanCon has already garnered in such a short time. Nothing but ecstatic about that. A couple of things here. We want to thank our title sponsor for the FanCon, which is PW Ponderings. PW Ponderings, who actually has worked alongside CWF in lots of independent wrestling groups. A great website that covers independent wrestling as well, or better than anybody else out there. Myself, I've written feature columns for PW Ponderings in the past, and nothing but great things to say about those guys. Also, our sponsor for our dinner on Friday night, Little Italy of Burlington, who's really come through for us and going to set us up right. After talking to management, they're even throwing in dessert for free for everybody. So, hey, there you go.
There you go.
Also, another little thing we want to plug is, of course, our Twitter feed, which is FanCon CWF. Unfortunately, we could not get CWF FanCon. Somebody actually registered that and has like 2 tweets.
Oh my
Lord. two tweets.
It's
that
one
mean
of those
nothing.
things where you should like write Twitter. But I mean, oh well.
Yeah. We also have a Facebook event page. You can look that up on Facebook. And of course, if you have any questions at all, directly message myself or John or the FanCon Twitter account. Or you can also email us at cwf.fancon@gmail.com. So that gives you all the particulars. One more thing, got to push here before we get into the particulars of the FanCon. Friday is the cutoff date for the hotel, our sponsored title hotel. Friday is the cutoff date for that to get the rate. And from talking to the hotel, most of the hotels that weekend in the area are going to be booked because Plus, there are multiple college football games going on in the area. So if you're planning on making the trip, I would suggest booking now. Don't put it off anymore. It's going to be hard to find a hotel, period, that weekend.
I mean, yeah, you got UNC around that area. You got Elon College around that area.
Chapel Hill's down the road.
Chapel Hill's down the road.
Duke's down the road.
Duke.
And from what I'm gathering, there are 3 home college football games that weekend, and one of them is a homecoming game.
Ooh.
So, yeah, so hotel rooms are going to be at a premium. So if you've not booked, I would book soon.
Go into a local level here in my area. You know, I always go to my brother-in-law, might as well be my brother-in-law, coaches high school football down here in Dan River for Dan River High School here in Danville, Virginia. And like their homecoming is on the 3rd or on the 13th, and I looked at my girlfriend and I says, "You're gonna have to have your mom drive you to that. I won't be here." So I'm gonna miss homecoming down here. You know, it's crazy. I hate watching football on TV. I don't like the NFL. Just because of look at what went on this past weekend. We won't get into that. It's not even about the game anymore. It's who's kneeling and who whatever. But I like going and watching it on a lower level. I like going to college games too. But I mean, like JB said, make sure Friday's the cutoff for the hotel. I was thinking about getting a hotel room down there, but when I thought about it, I'm like, I'm 45 minutes away from the Sportatorium.
Sure.
I'll just drive back and forth.
There you go. If you're a local, of course, we want you to come and join us too for all the events. If you are planning to come to the dinner, we do need a head count on that. We actually can the cutoff of that can be up to the day before. So we've been given the go-ahead from that from Little Italy, so they've been very nice about doing that.
Okay.
But we just want to make sure that we get all that lined up. Of course, Friday night, the 13th, we will have our dinner, followed by a Q&A session with the creative brass of CWF, Brad Stutz and Mr. Grant Sawyer. So talking about all the ongoings, the ingoings, and the outgoings of what is CWF and how they get this product out here every week to us. Followed behind that, we are going to have a voted on selection of 2 to 3 matches, the top matches from the time of I guess as far back as they can grab into the archives, and have a chance for the fans to all sit and watch 2 or 3 classic CWF matches up on the Sawyertron in the Sportatorium.
Nice.
So that will be our evening activities. We are hoping to have a couple of special guests there that evening who are also going to kind of add some running commentary to what's going on aside from Grant and Brad. So we're not going to say who those people are just yet, but hoping to have a couple people, kind of almost like a director's cut for a couple of matches.
That's awesome.
Or almost like the pop-up video of the day back in the day, where you're getting the little blurbs about what was really going on and what led up to those matches. So that's Friday night. Saturday morning, we are going to start bright and early with Q&As. We have panels set up of traditional faces and heels, I guess you would say, and then also a CWF Legends panel. We're going to bring in some guys from the past to talk about the history of CWF, how CWF came to be. It's a company that's been around a lot longer than what, like Brad said tonight on the show. I think he did a really good job of doing a lot of history on the show tonight to really get you into the Royal and Lee match, which we'll get into later. But we're going to have some of the legends from the past come back and really give you a high-level education in what CWF Mid-Atlantic is. And I'll go quickly through the Q&A panel here so far. We've announced many of them on Twitter, and we may have some other additions that we're not going to announce just yet, but we will have. Some of our faces include Smith Garrett, Dirty Daddy, Snooty Fox, one of Joe's favorite, Miss CL Party.
Oh, yeah.
And a crowd favorite everywhere. She told me I had to say nice things about her. I said that was no problem.
That's right.
Mr. Cecil Scott, and maybe being seen for the first time in a while, Mr. Nick Richards.
Hasn't been seen since that match with Trevor Lee.
That is correct. Nick will be making an appearance at the Q&As. The Hillside, we have Mr. Kane Justice, Mr. Eric Royal, Eric Andrews, and Lee Valiant. That's who we have for our Hill group so far. We probably will have a couple more, just not there yet. Our Legends group will include the Daredevil himself, Mr. Kamikaze Kid. We have Coach Gemini, Donnie Dollars, Mitch Connor, and the lovely and talented Miss Amber Gertner. That's our Legends panel so far. We have some people who are reaching out from way in the past of CWF, and after talking to management tonight, we're pretty sure we're going to pull some legends out that some of the locals especially are going to be surprised to see, because they've not been seen or even talked about on CWF television in many ways in a long time. So for the locals, that'll be a treat. And even for the newbies who want to get a lesson in really what CWF's all about, should be a great experience for everybody. The Q&As, of course, we'll have those on Saturday morning. After that, after the Q&As are done, we've got a couple special things planned. Not going to reveal those just yet. Got one thing that is kind of in the works right now that I'm hoping will come to fruition. If it does, you guys will be surprised, and you're going to have a great time with it. And to give you a little bit of a teaser, and of course, the big thing of all, of course, is the Rumble itself. And Joe, you're going to be there along with many others. And the Rumble has the consequences, as we learned tonight on Worldwide, of being for the title. Trevor coming in at number 1, going to have to battle his way through 29 of the coach's greatest lineup.
Now, I heard a rumor going into this that, and they didn't announce it tonight, but the rumor was passing around that Roy Wilkins was number 30. But they didn't say that tonight.
I think that was almost insinuated. I'm not sure if that's true. But, of course, you wouldn't put it past Coach Gemini to drop his cleanup hitter into the number 30 spot.
I couldn't help but notice here a couple of names. I don't know if you mentioned them or not, because you were going kind of quick there for me. Cecil Miller has also been announced.
Cecil Scott, yeah, Cecil Scott.
Cecil Scott, sorry, and Ethan Alexander Sharp is going to be there.
Yes, he's part of our Hill panel. I apologize, Ethan. There we go.
So I'm just reading this from the FanCon CWF at FanCon CWF Twitter feed. So
yeah, you would think that I remember that since I'm the one who put it up there, but hey.
So, talk a little bit about your affiliation, kind of with CWF. Well, not affiliation, I should say, but your relationship with CWF, and that. When did you find this promotion? What led you to this promotion? And kind of talk about what keeps you coming back, because you're from Charlotte.
Yes, I drive in from Charlotte for shows.
That's a little bit of a drive. That's more than me.
It's an hour and 45 to 2 hours, depending on what the construction like is on 85.
Oh, jeez.
But a lot of times I'm not riding solo. Of course, I have a friend who comes with me, or in many cases, my daughters who will come with me to shows. I'll give a shout out to the infamous CWF Junior Booker, as Brad has dubbed her, my daughter Ellery, who's at a lot of shows, and also my daughter Abby, who joins me for shows. But for me, how did I come in contact with CWF and how it all started? It's interesting. I'll give a short synopsis of it. I'm not from the Carolinas, did not grow up here, moved here 8 years ago, from northern Kentucky near Cincinnati, Ohio. So I grew up with a totally different, wrestling product. My first wrestling memories are actually Georgia Championship Wrestling.
I was going to say, you don't have a deep Southern accent like the rest of all of us do.
No. So you'll understand this from the radio. I worked in the radio business for, I guess, about 7 or 8 years, and you learn that non-regional diction where you try to lose your accent. So I worked in radio and television, worked in the newspaper business as well, a full-time journalist for many years, and then got into education. But it gets sidetracked off there. We'll go into a tangent. But I did not grow up in the Carolinas, but of course had an appreciation for all things in the Carolinas with the Crockett territory, whatnot. But when I moved to North Carolina, I was trying to find a local scene, different people to talk to, and I was at a fan convention here in Charlotte, the NWA Legends Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest.
Yeah, Greg Price's deal.
Yeah, Greg Price's deal. A few years back, about 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, and was sitting at the bar at the hotel, having a beverage, and was talking to a guy, and that guy happened to be Mr. Bruce Mitchell, who's been one of your guests.
Yep.
And Bruce and I became fast friends talking, and Bruce kept telling me about this local promotion outside of Greensboro, something he had been going to for many years, and I kind of put him off and said, it's local, it's, is it any good, is it something I want to see? And then finally he kind of broke me down and said, okay, listen, make the drive up here, meet me for a beverage, we'll go to the show. All right. So Bruce took me to my first show. That's been a few years now.
Did he take you to Mother Tucker's before or after the show?
I actually no. Mother Tucker's was a second trip up. That's his home.
Bruce has heat with me about that because I was there. I was at Lost Ark video games across the street from that place. I love Lost Ark, and I look across the street and I see this painted up building, and I look at the sign and it says Mother Tucker's Eatery, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I just can't get away from fucking CWF.
Like, it's a fine establishment, let me tell you.
It doesn't look like a place I could bring my son into. That's why I didn't walk in there.
It's a little rough on the outside, but it's lovely inside. The people are great there, but so Bruce is kind of my liaison into CWF. After going to my first show, I was hooked and started going ever since. Over time, really got to know a lot of the people there, became good friends with, a lot of the folks that are part of CWF, and kind of was just taken in and became kind of part of the family in many ways. And I appreciate that greatly. Moving to North Carolina, was a big change for me. I moved here, and then as we mentioned earlier, I went through a divorce about a year after moving to North Carolina. So I was restarting my life in many ways, and I wrote a column about this last year, actually, for PW Ponderings, about how wrestling and kind of brought me out of a funk, and and CWF is really responsible for that in many ways. So CWF, the Sportatorium, is kind of my home away from home. And I'm part of a group of people who are, I guess you would say, are the regulars there, but I'm really not the regulars, because the regulars have been there for, a decade or more.
Yeah, look at that front row. They're there every single show.
Exactly. I'm in no way in that same category. I'm glad that people recognize, say hello to me, talk to me, and and appreciate my thoughts on what's going on with CWF and wrestling in general. But CWF has meant a lot to me. It's a great place to be. If you've never been to the Sportatorium, if you're a wrestling fan anywhere listening to this, it's a must stop. It's a must stop. It's the single most unique wrestling atmosphere that you're going to find, at least in this part of the country. I mean, honestly.
I look at it this way: that front row, that whole family that fills that front row. If Brad Stutz was going to come there on a Wednesday night and wash the windows, they would fill their seats and watch him do it.
Sure, absolutely.
It is. And you know what? Kudos to them, because I honestly wish I could afford to go to every single show. But, hell, you have kids. I have kids. You know how it is.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not at every show. I'm at a lot of shows, that's for sure. But I'm not at every show. Actually, I've been to one in the last, probably one of the last 4 shows I've been to, and I'm jonesing. So I've got to get my fix. Got to get to the Sportatorium, but the next time I'm going to make a trip up will be, of course, for the Rumble.
I feel the same way. Every time I see like the one that they're doing in Chapel Hill, I've never been to a Chapel Hill show before. I wish I could go to that.
That's an experience, Joe. I went to the first one, and it was unreal. It was a different atmosphere altogether, and in all the best ways possible. And of course, tonight on the show on Worldwide, they've kind of talked about that, and we can get into more of that a little bit later. But Chapel Hill, gotta go. That Hargraves Community Center, a totally different place. It's loud, it's raucous, it's everything that's great about wrestling.
So let's get into tonight's episode here, episode 124. Golly, I can't believe I've been doing this damn after show for this long. Feels like just yesterday we were hitting episode 100. Oh, I hear papers ruffling. Did you take notes like me?
I sure did.
Oh man, you need to be my permanent co-host for this. I'm looking for one. Ever since Jeff Edwards, I'm sorry, I don't have the same. This show does not have the same feel to it if I don't have somebody on here with me to talk about this. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for watching it, taking notes.
No problem.
I'm staring at I need to get off Twitter while we talk about this because I'm sitting here reading Young Bucks Vince McMahon cartoons that just got posted, and they're making me want to laugh out loud. So let me click off of that. Literally, there's a damn photo of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega reading the damn cease and desist, and it says, "Signed, screw you, goddammit, Vincent K. McMahon." Anyway. Episode 124 Worldwide started off with Kane Justice, Ethan Alexander Sharp, and Otto Schwanz taking on the Dirty Daddy, the Proletariat Bora Moldova, and Ian Maxwell. I'll kick it to you here, JB, as I usually do with my co-hosts on here. What are your thoughts on this match?
Number one, interesting mix. Absolutely. I mean, six guys who all offer different things. I think it was interesting to start off with Maxwell. We haven't seen Maxwell since this past summer with the tag tournament with the Criminal Cup, and Maxwell showed really good quicks. I thought out right from the beginning. He a lot of good movement in the ring, quick movement. He shows a lot of good upside. I would like to see more of this guy. He's the kind of guy that could add a lot to not just the RGL division, but even main roster shows. He's got a lot of potential. A good athlete with a lot of movement. I'm a huge Boar fan. I'm just going to say it right now.
Me too.
I love the Boar. And I'm not a Chikara guy. I'm not into, I'm not, and that's where he's from. I'm not a Chikara fan in a lot of ways, but this guy's a huge guy. Brad was not kidding on the show. If you ever see this guy up front, right in front of you at ringside of the show, he's a huge guy.
His legs are like tree trunks.
Yeah, he's a huge guy. He really is a big man. And, you're just waiting to see him and Otto really go at it because those two guys are just two beasts. And you get to see a little bit of that throughout. But I think, of course, the picture they're painting throughout the whole match is keeping Kane and Dirty away from each other until we get to the end.
Yeah.
Trying to find a way to where they don't really have to touch, but there's enough heat to keep going on there. And Kane did a great job of, bowing out, finding a way, quickly moving away. As soon as Dirty was tagging in, if he was in the ring, he's going over and slapping somebody to try to get out of the ring. Playing that, that quote unquote chicken shit heel type, momentum where he's just going to stay away until that heat keeps building up until we get to the end. A well-paced match. Sometimes a six-man tag can become a cluster, let's be honest. And this match really did not. There was a good story told between all six guys, with each guy pairing off at times, and also getting some, and working the referee, which in any tag match, you got to work the referee. You got to work those blind tags. You got to work a guy to where the referee can't see a spot where a guy's cheating. It was all well done. Very well done.
What are your thoughts on the way Ethan Alexander Sharp has been booked this year? He's kind of risen and really gone to another level this year, wouldn't you say?
I think so. It's and I think Brad alluded to that in the commentary. Either Brad or Cecil mentioned, he's no longer that boy from the RGL. He's the guy. He's the man who's coming out of the RGL and now is a veteran, a guy who's got enough matches and enough time under his belt to take it up to that next level. And he has been traveling a little bit. He has been wrestling other places. He has been going up to Nova Pro.
Really?
In Virginia. He's been up there for some matches. He was in the ring with the one and only Barbarian at Nova Pro. So it says a lot about Ethan. Ethan's the kind of guy who is obviously working hard and doing all the things that's necessary in order for him to take that next step. And I think character-wise and in-ring talent-wise, he's starting to turn that corner. And the NCWF is obviously recognizing that because they're using him in a different manner than they were, say, 6 months ago.
I like how the commentary kind of got a bit off the rails in certain parts of this match, showing that, that true off-the-cuffness, if you will, with these two is just awesome. And how they can, kind of go off the rails, kind of like Obama Heenan and Shivani would sometimes.
Yeah, it's riffing.
Yes.
It's riffing and having a good time and it's not just popping each other for the sake of popping each other either. It's done in a way where it's adding humor, it's adding something to it, but then they know when to get off of that and go right back to telling the story.
When they start laughing, when one of them pops the other one, that's legit, folks. That's not scripted.
No, not at all.
You can't fake that kind of a laughter. I'm sorry, you just can't. I put here that this guy Maxwell, Ian Maxwell, showing really good charisma in this match with the dive and the Rana. I wrote down here that Schwann's versus the Boar. I want to see those two in a singles match.
Me too, absolutely.
And
I'm a big Otto Schwann's fan. I'm being honest with you. He's a veteran. If you don't know who Otto is, jump back, go on YouTube. You can find matches of Otto long before he was Otto.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. The guy has been in the business for almost 15 years, and is a solid performer in the ring, and he's believable. That's the bottom line. The guy is believable. He is a wrestling machine. He really is.
Him and Kane in this match busting out the old heart attack move. That was incredible.
Yeah, out of nowhere. Wasn't expecting to see that at all.
And, the huge Samoan drop by the Boar here. Airplane brainbuster by the Dirty Daddy for the win. And again, we get that. I'm so glad, and I hope this is true. I hope we're going to see probably a little bit of it in the Rumble. But I'm hoping to God that we have pretty much seen the last days of Showtime. Because this Dirty Daddy, the Dirty Daddy that we're getting here, is the Dirty Daddy that we started to get before they put him with Snooty Fox, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
That airplane spin into a brain buster is a nasty combination.
Yes, it is.
It's effortless. It's smooth. He makes the transition from it perfectly fine, and he finally gets that taste of victory by pinning Kane, and that tells that storyline. It doesn't close it up. It just moves it to a different level. And I think that's the one thing that I've always said that really drew me to CWF to begin with. It is the logical placement of storyline progression. And they're doing a great job with building this daddy storyline going against Kane. It's just another layer of the elements of what's really going on at CWF.
Does it surprise you, though, that there for a while we had Dirty Daddy versus Kane with Battlecade, and they kind of floated that along into January, but then Kane got away from that. And Kane, you've heard our show. You know how I feel about the way they booked Kane Justice this year. It's definitely had its ups and downs. Kane went on that huge tear in the spring, and then over the summer he kind of lulled a bit, and now they're putting him back with Dirty Daddy. What are your thoughts on Kane Justice and particularly his kind of quote-unquote rise, if you will, here in CWF?
Kane's a perfect example of a guy for this generation, this internet generation, where kids that are close to his age can relate to him.
Yep.
He looks a lot like an everyday high school kid in many ways. he looks like a guy that's, that's hanging out in a frat house as a sophomore or junior in college. He's the kind, he's relatable.
Yes, he is.
He's very relatable, and I think that plays, and he's starting to learn his character too. I'm not talking out of school here, but Kane is a guy who's worked very, very hard to get to where he is at this point, but he knows he has to work that much harder to keep pushing over to get to the top. And at this point, when it comes to the booking style and what's happened and where he went from the hot point of the Daddy match and winning the RGL title at Battlecade to kind of going through the lull and then going back up, I think that was purposely done, Joe, in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's, if you keep booking hot for a young guy, that's all he's ever going to want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter to kind of see, well, are you still willing to work hard? Are you still willing to do this? Still willing to do that? You gotta test a guy, and that goes in any business. I run a business here in Charlotte, and I test my staff all the time. It's the same way when it comes to running a locker room. You got to test everyone, and especially younger ones. You got to test them to see where they're going to go. And I think Kane has came out the other side of this looking just fine, and now we're going to see, the latter quarter of the year, where this is going to go for Kane.
I gotta be honest with you. Here it is, all year long, or all summer long at least, since I've been doing this show. I've always wondered, why don't they treat him like a Kurt Angle? He's so damn good. Why don't they put the rocket on him? And you're the first one really to put it in perspective for me, because I think their logic in this guy is if you hot shot him to the moon, what do you do next with him? If he does everything in his first year, what's next?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
If you give him too much, does it, on a personal level and a locker room level, you want to keep a happy locker room from a booking standpoint of things and from an ownership standpoint of things, from a behind the curtain standpoint of things. Do you really want this guy getting that big of a head? Because if you know Kane, and if you've ever talked to Kane, that's who you get, folks. It's not that far from being a gimmick. We love Kane.
Well,
I love Kane.
We all know, just as it's been said many times over, the adage is turn it up to 11, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't fall far from that, and that's fine. It works, and it's just as long as he doesn't talk to me in third person all the time, I'll be happy. But the reality is, I laugh a little bit because he does. But the reality is, Joe, in many ways, the kid has a superior amount of talent for his age. But that's the point. It's his age, and he has to learn, to take steps, and he has, and he's doing the right things. And now it's just a matter of time to see where it's going to turn here in the latter half of the year, the latter quarter of the year.
He's got to pay his dues.
He's got to pay his dues. And honestly, at his age, could you imagine, having a title strapped to you and being a big fish in a small pond in your hometown and getting all the accolades, or the allocades, as Lex Luger would say, and living that life? When I was 20, 21 years old, I was a mess. I couldn't imagine, being local celebrity, in a small town, and being on the internet. Of course, when I was growing up, there was barely any internet, but I couldn't imagine being able to be seen on a worldwide platform like YouTube every week, and I can send that link to whoever I want around the world and be able to see me. I mean, it's a different life. It's a different life. And it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
It used to be, hey, send it, hey, I want to work for you. Okay, kid, send me a tape. Now it's, no, I'll tweet you this link.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how easy it is.
It's a whole different world. It's a whole different world. It's like when I get applications for people for jobs, they, it's not a paper resume. It's look at my LinkedIn profile. It's a whole different world.
I can't stand LinkedIn. I think that's that's a farce, man. Anyway. But with Kane, it's like, and I'm sorry, folks, we're getting off on this tangent, but I could talk about Kane Justice just in a whole episode. But for me, it's like he back after the Coronado Cup, he traveled. I think it was after the Coronado Cup, or it may have been Absolute. No, it was Absolute Justice. He traveled to Indiana for that turn. I think it was the Dynamite Cup or whatever it was.
Yes, he did.
He went down to the Scenic City Invitational. I think he did.
I was at the Scenic City Invitational, and he was right there.
So
he was hanging out in my hotel room. So yeah, he was there.
He's there. He's learning, and I think I don't want to peel back the curtain too much. I don't know if we did. I can't remember if we discussed this, but when I had Johnny P on a couple weeks ago, me and him were talking, and he said that he was there with Kane.
Matt Riddle.
And it was the Matt Riddle thing. He's like, I don't want to go say hi to Matt Riddle. He was nervous, and I'm just like, dude, you're Kane fucking Justice, and you're starstruck. But then I have to take that out as not everybody has seen this glorious thing that is CWF, and Kane kind of knows that. I think he's
it's all about perspective.
Yes, and respect. He has respect.
Exactly. So bringing it all back home to what we were talking about from when we spun off from there, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Kane in the latter quarter of the year here. And the daddy thing is not over, obviously. This is daddy got his win here in this 6-man, but obviously we know that there's another singles match on the horizon somewhere.
And there's another damn tournament on the horizon.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you burnt out on the tournaments this year? Because I am.
I think it's the year that it's the trend in wrestling.
Oh, man.
In many ways.
We've had, this will make, 3 of them in CWF so far this year, but I mean,
but there's variety in that too. So
yes.
The Coronado Cup's a tag team tournament, so it's a variety. That's changing it up.
Anything else to add about the 6-man match before we move on here?
Not really, other than I just thought that all 6 guys had their moments, and you can see all 6 of those guys being spun off into different things. That's what you want out of a match like this.
We then had CL Party and Snooty Fox in their third, I think it was their final part of them going into Chapel Hill and showing us a little bit behind the curtains of Snooty Fox a little bit. Johnny P says he did end up hanging out with Riddle until 5 a.m. though, so he picked his spot. There you go. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So I look at it this way, as opposed to some other people in CWF, I'm not going to say who here, at least Kane's willing to go out and try to work other places and hobnob. But anyway, they're at the Hargrave Center. I got to put over here again how beautiful CL Party looks. That's the rule number 1 of this after show. Thou must put over CL Party on every episode.
That's exactly what she told me. So
that's what's up. They take you back to his first match in that Hargrave Center with Otto, and
I was there for that match.
Really?
So, I was there for the show.
Talking about how he was nervous, and this right here was finally, I think, what this whole series was designed to do, series of vignettes was designed to do. Kudos, first of all, to CWF for trying to build characters and try to build them naturally. You don't even see this type of stuff on WWE anymore, boys and girls, so kudos to them for at least trying the last 3 weeks. And then also trying to do this in an indie fed where people have quote-unquote shoot jobs and shoot schedules. So trying to get them all together, kudos to CL Party and Grant and whoever was in charge of this for production and producing. Kudos to you guys, because this didn't even have to happen.
It was a John Philippovich production.
Oh, okay. There you go. So kudos to Johnny P. Jason Wishman says, this show does seem to flow a lot better with JB as co-host. Definitely should be permanent. That's up to JB.
Hey guys, I have a life.
JB,
I love wrestling. I wouldn't mind doing it from time to time, but a full-time gig may be stretching it.
You're welcome to come on anytime you want to. Hell, you asked me about it today, and I was like, come on tonight. So
I appreciate it. Thank you, Joe.
Anyway. So this right here kind of put in Snooty Fox's character a little bit into perspective. I feel like he's still a little bit too white meat babyface for my taste, but that's because I'm a child of the Attitude Era when that style never got over. But what were your thoughts here on these series of video packages that we've been seeing and culminating with this one?
I had some insight into this, obviously, because I'd been talking to Johnny about the production of this and how it was going, and we talked about it some before we went to SEI, and John, of course, is working on or has material to be working on when he can on the documentary that's upcoming as well for the boys of Gibsonville. But which I filmed some things for that, which I'm happy to have done. But we are looking at Snooty Fox here in a manner, and I know you're saying it's too white meat baby face, it's this, it's that, it's too squeaky, it's clean, it's wholesome, it's this, it's that. But I think it makes him seem, it comes across as him being earnest.
Yeah.
Kind of the man of the people. A kid who grew up in humble beginnings in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in a neighborhood that's not the finest neighborhood in all of Chapel Hill.
No.
And grew up near this community center that kept him probably out of more trouble than he could have been in, and kept him safe in many ways, and gave him a safe place to be. And I think it's a good story to tell. It's good character building. It talks about, it's real. It's real. It's relatable. It's relatable. And I think that, and tonight, you're right, Joe, this third part and final part of the series is probably I guess you would say the most real in many ways that Snooty came across. The other two kind of seemed like he was, playing off of the Snooty character, and this came across more like the man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has a lot of that has a lot that you can play with.
I don't know what order these things were shot in, or I know it was probably all done in one big afternoon, but he seemed more comfortable in front of camera in this third part than he did in the previous two parts combined.
Well, I think it's probably because it's home.
Yeah.
Like he was saying, this really is my home. This is the place that I went to as a child. This is the place I grew up as a teenager. This really is home. Maybe Franklin Street in downtown is the place I hang out, but bring me over here to the back street where the community center is, and this is really where I am. This is my home. And so that's an interesting take, Joe. That's an interesting look at that. And I think, obviously, this gives us more character building for Snooty Fox. And I'm hoping that this gives us more chances to see CL Party in the interview portion.
Absolutely.
Of her. Give her a chance to get out there and conduct interviews, and maybe have a little interview segment or something along the lines of that. Not just because Joe wants to see more of CL Party, but because CL Party genuinely is a talented individual. She is top-notch, individual outside of the ring. Beyond that, she's a lovely person and a great person. But it comes across on the camera too. It's not fake excitability. She genuinely loves the wrestling business.
Absolutely.
It's not, and it comes across. It's not fake. She's not a pretty girl holding a mic, a pretty lady holding a mic. She's talented. She's smart. She's witty. She has a lot to offer. And I'm hoping that this also gives her another chance, or more chances, to shine on Worldwide on a regular basis, as well, aside from just being a ring announcer.
It aired backwards, Johnny P says. First thing shot was aired tonight. Interesting to see reactions, hoping for more CL Party reports too. I look at it this way too. When it comes to CL Party, and I tweeted this Monday night, and I think tweeted this Tuesday night. I know I have in the past at least. She is not your cookie cutter WWE promo bot 3000.
No, not at all.
And nowhere near. And I hope to God we never get that from her.
I don't think we will. And it's because those quote-unquote promo bot 3000s, I love that, who are just basically set up on auto repeat.
Yep. It's like
here's the mic. Hello, I'm so and so, and here is Snooty Fox. that does nothing for me. But show me a smile, show some excitability, show me some range with your voice. Don't just be monotone and flat.
They're not even allowed to smile up north anymore, for Jesus Christ.
Hey, it's not just the north. I think they could take a good southern girl and ruin her just as fine up there. But
which is why Shivani never went back. But anyway.
Well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
We can get off that tangent and tell a story for at least an hour or two. But like I said, I hope that CL really gets another chance to shine off of this and gets to do more. And of course, Snooty is a likable character. And those Chapel Hill shows are something else. You gotta experience it. You gotta go. It is unbelievable, the atmosphere and the number of tickets that man can sell in that town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something to be seen.
Let me ask you this about those Chapel Hill shows, and I don't mean this in a negative way, of course, but I think I'm kind of scared to go there and leave the sportatorium, so to speak, because I don't want it to go to a rec center and make it seem like just another indie show, because that sportatorium is a character in itself, and it makes it makes CWF what it is. So I think the purist in me, if you want to call it that, is kind of scared to experience it outside that building, because when you put it in a rec center, it makes it seem like just another indie show. Does it come across that way?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Really?
It's like this. It's like taking the old Crockett territory and doing the studio show, and then going down the street to the local high school to do a Saturday night show. It's taking the same types of fans and mixing it in with some other fans, of course, too. But a lot of the regulars that are at the sportatorium make the trip up to Chapel Hill too. So you're going to see a lot of those same folks. And sitting in a familiar front row spot, but just a different atmosphere.
It's interesting too that this is not the only place that they traveled to. Last year, they traveled to that Moose Lodge where Brad Attitude cut that promo out in front of the sign where he's like, "Hey, this is a nice picture of the Von Erichs."
That was a classic. That's a classic. And that Moose Lodge show was interesting too. I mean, you got a whole different atmosphere. You got to see Rick Converse pull up in his Camaro, and do a spot like that. An outdoor show, you can only do those kind of things at an outdoor show. I'm not saying that CWF needs to go on the road all the time, but it's nice to have a change up every once in a while to cleanse the palate, and then go back to old familiar, and that's fine. But those Chapel Hill shows are special. I'm just going to say that they are special. The first one was unreal. Watching the second one was just as crazy and raucous. But that first show, what an experience. I was there, and I wish I could go to the next one, but work duties are not allowing me to travel until the Rumble.
I would love to go down there this weekend. They are going to be there at Chapel Hill at the Hargraves Community Center this Saturday night. CWF247.com. That's CWF247.com for tickets and more information. Anything else about this promo package here, JB, before we move on to the main event?
No, I'm good. Let's move on.
The main event. You had Eric Royal, who was champion for 560 days, versus the current champion, Trevor Lee. This is for the record. Both have been champion in this. As of this match, both were champion for 560 days. It's curious. I think I've asked this before. Is it current is it 560 days as of today, or was it 560 days as of that match taking place?
I would assume that it was of a match taking place, because they're not living in the worldwide bubble. They're living in the moment of the match. So I'm assuming that it's right there. Grant or Brad could correct me on that, or someone else in the CWF brass, but I believe it would be up to the moment of the match.
I want to tell you here, I'm not going to go through all my notes, because I found myself pausing this just to take notes. I have 2.5 pages of notes here on this match alone.
I write in terrible shorthand, so I don't have that much, but I definitely can talk that much.
But go ahead and kick us off with this one. What'd you think of it?
Number one, let's give a shout out to Johnny P for the hype video last week for the Royal versus Trevor 3.
Indeed.
I think that set the tone. If you're a regular watcher of Worldwide, setting up that video package really got you hype and ready to see this match. And that's classic big fight feel building. And building up to this idea of two guys who know each other, who train together, who've been wrestling together for such a long time and against each other and with each other. That is what good big fight building is. And looking at that, long-term booking, guys, long-term booking, 560 days together. I mean, how do you hit that number exactly and figure that out? That's amazing within itself. I don't know about you, Joe, but I don't know if I would have had the wherewithal or the idea of sticking on that and figuring it out myself. I would have got lost in the numbers somewhere. Also, my first note was Eric comes out sporting his new Planet of the Ace shirt.
Yes.
He's kind of his own man coming out. Eric is a guy who's been traveling too. Let's talk about Eric Royal just a little bit here. Eric has got a whole different level of storyline that's going on up in Nova Pro in Virginia. He was a big part of the SCI this year. Eric Royal is a guy who needs to be booked everywhere, people. Everywhere. I don't care who you are, where you are. Eric Royal is a guy who can make your show that much better and bring it up to the next level.
Amen to that.
Let's be honest. Eric Royal is a wrestling machine who deserves to be booked anywhere and everywhere the guy wants. Bottom line.
He's a far
Bottom
better,
line.
to me, and book him as a heel.
Yeah.
He's a far better heel than he ever was babyface, in my opinion.
He is, and there's a great story behind that too, and I'm hoping that some of that will come out in the Q&A panels talking about him making that transition and him becoming a heel. There's a great story he's told me about how that almost didn't happen. So we'll leave that for later. A little teaser there. But Eric comes out, Planet of the Ace shirt, looking like he's ready to go. The number one thing I noticed as soon as you see Trevor, the hair is down. So that means business is about to pick up, as JR would have said.
That's right.
Back in the day. Trevor doesn't have it up in the man bun. He's ready for business right off the start. So, go back and watch old Trevor matches. That's one of the things that my daughters always point out. As soon as if the hair's down, he's not messing around. It's time to get to business.
Out of the mouths of babes, man. It's amazing how it's amazing. My 8-year-old sits there and points out crap to me on Monday nights that I have to tweet it out and saying, this is their target audience, and they can see right through your ass, out of the mouths of babes. So, there you go.
First of all, the first thing that Eric does is he rolls out of the ring to start the match. He takes the traditional powder right out of the ring before anything happens.
After the handshake, no less.
After the handshake. That sets up the whole tone for the match. That is what I'm talking about. He is a heel to the max. And he plays it up in a way that what good heels do, if you're a fan, you almost want to cheer for their heeldom, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You almost want to say, that's nice, that's great, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see out of a heel. And Eric plays it up right from the beginning, and they start working, and it's kind of that, getting a feel for each other. You're working the hands, you're working your arm, you're working the wrist, you're working the elbow, you're working, and they go back and forth with that. And it's not that mundane plotting match, it's strategic.
Yes.
I thought the whole match was built around both guys having a strategy and working that strategy all the way through until the point which eventually frustration builds up for each one of them, and then everything's out the door at that point. And obviously we get into the chaos that's the match itself towards the end, where you have all of the gaga with
Once
the
you
coach
thought-
and
here's
Jerry Carey and the brass knucks and the silver knucks and the green knucks and the yellow knucks and the blue knucks and whatever else they were using out there.
Here's what kills me about that. The second you thought the gaga was over, they wrestled for about 10 more minutes, and we got more of it, and it was incredible.
Yeah, and it's not gaga for the sake of gaga. It's and what we mean, folks, is it's not just throwing the kitchen sink out there and hoping that something works. It's creating stop points and start points all throughout. We're going here. We stop here. Momentum is kind of peaked. No, it's not. We're going to go back up a little bit more, and then we'll come back down. It's like it's good writing. It's like how a movie should be, a TV show should be, a good play should be.
It's the yo-yo effect.
It's rising action. You reach a peak. It's falling action, and eventually you get to a resolution.
It's that yo-yo effect, man.
Exactly. And you bring people up and down, up and down, up and down. And I thought that this match was a perfect example of that. Bringing you up, bringing you down, bringing you up, bringing you down, to the point eventually you're like, I don't know if I can take too much more of this roller coaster ride, but I'm willing to still stay on. And that's the beauty of having two guys who are that familiar with each other, with Eric and Trevor. It's and I, like we talked about earlier, one of the big points I wanted to bring out about this is that Brad and Cecil did a masterful job of talking about the history involved. That I was getting lost in the commentary. I honestly,
at the beginning of the match, yes.
At points, I wasn't even watching what was going on in the ring. I almost closed my eyes and just sat and listened to Brad and Cecil give me a history lesson about what the troubles and trials have been between Eric and Trevor. And that within itself is how you get a point across. It's how you create a story. It's how you weave the story. If you took that commentary off that match tonight and just watched the match for itself, you'd say, those are two guys that can put on a pretty good show. Those are two guys that can wrestle a great match. But you add the commentary to it, and it changes everything. And that's, that honestly, I thought that, Trevor and Eric had an amazing match, and I imagine live it would have been even a greater experience. But listening to that commentary changes everything.
I like in this match how they were bringing up, Cecil was bringing up, who's the face of CWF after tonight? Up until now, it's kind of been, this year it's been Trevor Lee, but Royal had his title reign too, where he was the face. And then Stutzy, it surprised the hell out of me, because Stutzy has stated on Twitter, he doesn't like the classic stuff being up there. So it amazed the heck out of me, and my jaw dropped when he said, pre-Worldwide era, the face of this promotion was Rick Converse. I'm like, oh my God, Stutzy's bringing up the classics. That amazed me.
Well, I think Brad, Stutzy is not a fan of some of the old stuff being up there, because it's like it's the stages, you're growing, you're changing, it's the baby steps.
That, and it was before he was booking.
Absolutely.
There's a little bit of ego in there, as all bookers have to have one.
Of course, but it was a different era, and of course everybody has to have a stage where they kiss a lot of frogs before they get to a prince, and now we're at that stage right now where CWF Mid-Atlantic is a pretty slick product, for what it is and for what we have here. It's a slick product that it's easily digestible, it's logical. That's the key word right there for me. It's logical.
It doesn't insult your intelligence.
It doesn't insult your intelligence in the least. And you don't have to have had a long history with it. You can actually pick up an episode or two and be good with it and go right on. But you'll want to dig back. Yeah. But you can watch it. I can show it to a friend in California, and they can watch it and get it and understand it and enjoy it, and then pick and go back and rewatch stuff and get appreciation for what the history really was. But it's not one of those things where you got to watch 5 years of this before you really get it.
Newcomers always ask me, where do I start with this? And I don't know what to tell them. What would you be you've been a fan of it longer than I have. If a newcomer were to come up to you and say, where should I start?
I think that it depends on what storyline you're really interested in and what you're really wanting to dig into. If you really want to dig into the extended Trevor Lee storyline, you at least need to go back at least a year and a half or 2 years to really get a good feel.
When Jeff Edwards was co-hosting with me, I told him, dude, start at Battlecade and work your way forward. That's the best answer I could give you.
Yes, that would, and if you want a little bit more than that as far as the backstory, you go maybe a little bit before last Battlecade, or 2 years ago
Absolute
Battlecade.
Justice of last year, maybe.
Yeah, but to me, there's no reason not to start. That's my point.
Right.
If you're looking for a show that doesn't insult your intelligence, as you said, Joe, and carries logic through, but does it in an entertaining way, this is the show for you.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here doing this after show, obviously. But it's not something that that's going to take up a great deal of your time. You're not going to have to spend 3 hours of your time to watch it. It's digestible in an hour, and that's the best part to me.
I like here in the match, and I'll let you get back to your thoughts after I point this out, but in the minute, the commentary kind of flowed into the middle of the match too, where they bring up the fact that the All-Stars once cost Royal a title shot. Once cost him, they cost him the title. So now it shows how much Eric Royal has changed. That now, he's with the All-Stars and he's their ace.
I think it was Cecil that pointed out that he's got to this point. This is the reason he came to the coach, because he has got to this point in his career where I've got to have this extra to get over the top. I've got to have all these extras to get me to where I need to be. That's perfect. It was a perfect transition point. And then, after, we get past that point, eventually, of course, Jerry Carey is said goodbye to, is drug away. I thought the spot of the night that I enjoyed the most, that was in the Gaga region, is Trevor doing the World of Sport finger break spot on Kevin Pierce, the referee.
Yes.
And Kevin can't actually give the count because his hands are hurt.
Mm-hmm.
We got to kind of go back and set that up. Trevor did that to him because he was blinded by the coach who threw the Memphis-style powder into the eyes. So Trevor couldn't see, so he's popping the fingers of referee Kevin Pierce, and he makes sure to not just do it on one hand, but both, because the guy can't count. He could count with just one hand, but not with both. So, also understanding, keeping the logic in order there. I thought that was an interesting spot. I wasn't expecting that. And of course, eventually we get to the point where our senior official comes out and finishes the match. But just an excellent build to the finish, getting to the end. The royal stretch, the regal stretch at the end with Trevor finally getting to the end and getting him into position for that. And we got to mention, Eric is laying there in this position with brass knucks on his hands.
Yes. On
his hands. And he's got him wrapped around, but he's in such pain and such agony from this finishing move, from putting him in this regal stretch, he can't even use the brass knucks. Mm-hmm. It's perfect storytelling. The heel is in a position where he can be underhanded, he can cheat, but he can't use them because he's in so much pain, he still has to tap out.
And the overall story of this, too, is that, you had Jerry Carey on the outside. That backfired. He ate a PK. And I love how when they're dragging him out, he's sitting there going, am I in? Am I in, coach?
Yes.
It's so good. And then he's, once they drag him out, before they even start dragging him out, Trevor's on the outside after this. Coach is standing between Jerry Carey and between Trevor, and he blows the whistle and throws up the WWE referee X symbol. And the referees go out there and they're all checking Trevor, and he's like, not for him, and he points at Jerry Carey, and all the reps are like, what the fuck, And I like
see, Joe, that right there, is the comedy I want in wrestling.
But here's the deal. It makes sense.
Exactly. It's not forced. It's not forced. That's the point.
It's not too sweet me. I'll just anyway. Haha. That's all I can say to those guys. But anyway. But it's comedy for the sake of comedy in that he brung Jerry Carey out there. It backfired. He threw the powder. It backfired. He threw the damn brass knucks in the ring. It backfired. And this has been Trevor Lee's MO every single time he goes up against an all-star. It backfires. By hook or by crook, every cheap shot that they throw at him backfires. And the killer is this. They've now devised a plan with this golden ticket that Coach and the All-Stars finally think they're going to get this, and they realized it. Everything we throw at you backfires, but this, when you got to run the gauntlet, when you got to go through 29 other men, and I'm putting the line up together because now I get, I guess the storyline here is that Coach is booking the Rumble.
One would seem. That's what it sounds like. He said, I'm going to put out my best lineup ever.
Yes, so. Coach is booking the Rumble. And you know what we need during this Rumble? We need Coach on commentary.
Oh, gosh.
It would be Bobby Heenan, 1992 Rumble, all over again. There's an idea.
Hey, Joe, don't put it past
them. Hey, I know they listen to me, damn it. That's what they need. Because you can't just have this Rumble and have him be on the outside just flailing around. Or what if Coach comes out of retirement and actually is in the Rumble?
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. But, I mean, Coach getting dragged out here. A big outside buckle bomb by Royal onto Lee. And then,
that was nasty. That was a nasty move.
It looked great, though.
It did.
And then... one thing that we really haven't touched on here is Royal goes over to the commentary table and steals a headset. And this reminded me of The Rock. Old school Rock, how he used to do this. You go back to that empty arena match in 99 when he put on the commentary, put on the headset. And he would do it every so often. I think he did it at Royal Rumble 99. I think he even did it at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Like those 3 matches that he had with Foley. He would go over and put the commentary, the headset on, and cut a promo. Royal was masterful at it tonight. I loved it.
And the key was there. He took him from Cecil, not from Brad.
Exactly.
Notice that, right?
Exactly.
So I'm taking it from the color commentator. I'm taking it from the guy who's quote unquote out of the ring, out of the business. I'm gonna take it from him. I'm gonna try to demean him a little bit by taking his own headset off of his head.
Mm-hmm.
That's true heel heat. That was done on purpose. It wasn't like that was perfect.
And see, here's what kills me. Part of me sits there and goes, all the more reason to have Coach on the headsets with Brad. But then it's like you can't not have Cecil there. But then if you go back to last year, wasn't last year's the last year that Cecil could compete in the Rumble? So what do you do with Cecil that night? It's like, this is why I could never book this shit. This is why I will never claim to be a booker. I can armchair a Monday morning quarterback all I damn well please. But in reality, no. I also put here, did you see Coach working the donut hole during the match?
Yes. I that's Memphis. Oh, God, that's Memphis.
The Jim Cornette podcast came out with him talking about the donut hole, and I had heard him talk about the donut hole about 10 years ago when they put out a shoot interview with him and Bobby Heenan, where he was talking about the donut hole. And then I put on Twitter right after that aired, right after they released the podcast on YouTube, I'm like, that donut hole spot is perfect for Coach Jim and I. And damn if I didn't see it done tonight. And then he brings up the real brass nuts
should we explain what the donut hole spot is for people?
The donut hole. It's literally nothing in your hand, but you ball up your fist. He reaches into his tights and he, quote-unquote, grabs it. He hits the guy. He then takes it and puts it in his knee pad. He wrestles around, takes it out of his knee pad. He hits the guy. He puts it under his arm. He wrestles around with it under his arm. He takes it, hits the guy, puts it in his mouth. The thing that you have to worry about is when you put it under your armpit and then you reach for it into your knee pad. It doesn't work all the time.
And the key is it's the invisible foreign object. You know? And it's that idea that I've got something and I'm getting an advantage with it, and it's driving the crowd nuts. I noticed that from the beginning, and it was shot perfectly by, if Grant was on that camera spot, it was perfect. You know, you can see him balling his fist up like he's got something hard in his fist, like a roll of quarters or whatever it may be.
He blew it right afterwards, because then he undid his fist, and we saw there was nothing in it.
Yes, I saw that too. But you know, it's an old school spot that works. It works fine. It's old school heat, and
that spot doesn't work without the commentary going, "Oh my God, did he hit him with something? What did he have?"
Right, exactly.
The penalty kick finally gets landed on Royal. We get a big cross body by Lee in the match. I put here, this is his biggest opponent in terms of size since he faced Rob McBride.
Yes.
If you go, Otto has him on height, but if you go by weight, just sheer bulk, and I'm not saying this to offend Eric Royal, it's Lee's biggest opponent since he faced Rob McBride.
Yes. And let's be honest, that physically wears on you in a match, no matter what. I mean, you're out there, and if you know that Sportatorium is notoriously warm. Let's just put it that way.
It's hotter than Hades in there some nights.
And when it's that warm out there, and you're wrestling a guy that's as large as Eric is, you physically are going to be spent, and you can tell. You know, and it doesn't matter how great his shape and how many reps and what you're doing. Anytime you're in a match with a guy that's as big as Eric, it's going to wear on you, and that's the truth. I mean, that's the physical truth of wrestling. When you're out there, it's going to wear on you no matter what. But if you got a guy out there who's got a good 50 to 75 pounds on you or more, that's going to wear on a guy, and you could definitely see that.
I would have loved to put Elgin. Yeah, well, he didn't face Elgin for CWF. He faced Elgin for Modern Vintage Wrestling. Big difference. Correct. Even though it's kind of weird for me, and it's kind of hard for me to accept those Modern Vintage episodes as canon. It just is. Even though it was a Modern and Vintage show, and they were chanting for CWF, that's the part I found telling about it. So it is canon, but it's not canon. It's
yes.
It's weird for me. But we got the sick kick. We got the powder by Coach, and he snaps not one finger, but two of them. So the powder backfires, and because the ref is like, "Look at my hand, I can't freaking count."
And let's give it to Kevin Pierce. Kevin Pierce on that. He sold it very well.
So Coach has, tosses the knucks in, and then we got the take me out to the ball game, and the helmet shot backfires. So every time they tried to take the low road, they got roadblocked by Trevor Lee tonight. It was beautiful. Like we said, the Gaga's in there, but it's there for not just for the sake of being there. It's there to tell a story. And the story of this match, again, was that every time they tried to take the low road in this match, it backfired on them. The Cincinnati Destroyer, because then Roy Wilkins comes in. That's the first time I've ever seen him bust out that move.
Oh yeah, I've seen Roy do that before. Of course, it's the Cincinnati Destroyer because the coach's favorite team is the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
So not the Canadian Destroyer as traditionally being known, but Roy, obviously being the elite wrestler of the All-Stars and the holder of the golden ticket, is at the beck and call of the coach, and he comes out and tries to set all this up for another way to thwart Trevor and break this streak and give the title to the All-Stars, but all for naught in the end.
And Snooty Fox comes in and makes the save, which, if I'm on commentary, I'm questioning this, kind of going, why is he wanting to stop Lee from getting Royal from getting the title? Because if Royal wins the title, he gets a title match in Chapel Hill. They didn't kind of bring up that dynamic. But then again, Snooty's a babyface, so why would you?
Well, you kind of have to have that blind logic when it comes to babyfaces. If you can, the idea that all the babyfaces together, we're there for each other. That happy-go-lucky. That kind of goes back to that the elements of the 1980s babyface effect.
Yeah.
Where you got that one guy who's always the savior, the guy who will always hit the ring and help the fellow babyface. And and that's fine. That's fine.
Sometimes I firmly believe that if this company could have separate locker rooms for heels and baby faces, Stutzy probably would have it.
Oh yeah, and have them come out different entrances.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah, we got another buckle bomb by Royal. Cecil's going, "That's ended careers," referencing Sting. It's beautiful. I love this.
That's correct.
You know, we got a collision course by Trevor Lee, which we finally know the name of that move. It's the collision course.
Well, I could have told you that, but
I was scrambling around trying to find the name of it last week because it's such a brilliant move.
I actually, when I was listening to the show, I was just saying it out loud. It's like, Joe, it's a collision course. It's a collision course. And I was listening to you on a delayed basis, so it wasn't live.
That's okay, as long as you're listening.
But yeah, and that collision course with a guy the size of Eric is not an easy feat.
If there's
both those guys are working together perfectly to make that happen.
If there's one move in pro wrestling that I would love to sit there like in a seminar style setting and have Lee show me how that actually works and how that he has to perform it, as well as the other guy having to take it, that's the move I want to know about.
It has a lot to do with the other guy, honestly.
Yeah.
It has more to do with the other guy than it does than Trevor.
It strikes me kind of like a Hurricane Rana, where the guy taking the move is just as much responsible as the guy giving it. You know?
Yes, absolutely.
We got double middle fingers, Lee flipping them out and saying, "Come the fuck on," you know, all that good shit. You know, when Trevor Lee starts cursing, he means business, folks. Just an awesome match, and then we get at the end, you know, we get the Regal stretch with the Nux on Royal's hand. Royal taps. 561 days now he's been champion, according as of that taping, because Grant put in there that 560 days was as of the tape date, not air date.
Okay.
Coach gets on the mic, says he has the golden ticket, and in the rumble, and this is big with FanCon being there, in my opinion. This makes to me, it makes FanCon a little bit more special, given the stipulation for this year's Rumble. Trevor Lee is number 1, and the Rumble is for the title. The ticket he says ticket means he can do whatever he wants to for the lineup. So I guess they can. I mean, and it's curious to see with these Chapel Hill shows how they're going to sell the Rumble on commentary. Will we get a definite answer on what that means? Probably not. You know, as far as, you know, Coach doing the lineup, I think we'll have to wait until the day gets here, because after all, your main purpose is to sell tickets and put asses in seats.
Absolutely.
But I gotta say, this is one of my damn good episode of Worldwide this week. It's not my favorite episode of the year, but it's right up there. It's impossible for me. I sat down the other day and I'm sitting there going, how do I at the end of the year create a top 10 list of episodes of Worldwide this year? I can't do it, and I'm not even going to try to do it, because there's just so many good episodes.
I think it's easier, Joe, to pick moments as opposed to matches.
And that's why we have that Moments of the Year video that Grant Sawyer loves doing so much.
We know you do, Grant.
Trevor curses, Stutzy hits the panic button. Family show, family show. That's what Johnny P says. Thank you for listening tonight, Johnny P. So I have to ask you one more thing before we get out of here for tonight.
Sure. Let's go.
What do you think about Starrcade coming back?
I will say exactly what I said on Twitter to a friend today. It is a fun way to pop a local house.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I guess the rumored match that's being reported tonight, that's been confirmed by a couple of reliable sources that I have, Rock and Roll Express versus Gallows and Anderson.
Honestly, being in the Mid-Atlantic and being from Virginia, we don't get a whole lot of indie shows around this area of Virginia. I mean, we get a couple. There's a couple of promotions that run southwest of Virginia. Nova Pro is too far up north for me to drive through, and it's just the traffic going in and out of there gives me a headache.
Yeah. Beltway traffic is a disaster.
Oh, man. If they ran closer to, like, Richmond or whatever, I'd be there every once in a while. But Alexandria, no thank you. But anyway, it seems like you cannot have an indie show in Virginia without Ricky Morton or Robert Gibson being on there in some capacity. So it's nothing new to me.
Oh, I know it's nothing new, but it's the idea of
nostalgia
of Ricky and Robert in the Greensboro Coliseum.
Yeah.
And wrestling against two traditional wrestlers who, and Carl Anderson, who I got to watch a lot at a young age when he was wrestling in Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of respect for Carl Anderson, just to be honest.
He's awesome on the mic.
He's an awesome technician, and aside from all the gimmickry and the and the two sweets and the brothers this and the brothers that, Gallows is a heck of a hand. He's a hell of a wrestler, and getting to see those two guys wanting to face Ricky and Robert, who are obviously heroes of theirs. Big ups for WWE for putting that on. If they're going to sign that match, kudos to them for making that happen and letting those guys live out something fun. Live out something fun.
It would be extra awesome if, now that Cornette has nothing to do with GFW/TNA, that if he would accompany Gallows and Anderson during that match.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would be interesting. Of course, my hope of all hopes was to see Jim Cornette with the Revival, but that was my hope of all hopes, of making that eventually happen. Because and I'm biased, but as far as tag team wrestling goes, stateside, it's hard to beat the Revival.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about how this match or this show, oh no, they're doing it the same event as WrestleCade or the same day as WrestleCade. Here's my thoughts on this. They probably didn't even know WrestleCade existed until Twitter blew up on it, folks. Get real. There is
I don't know about that. There's a pretty close circle when it comes to social media and following. I'm not saying that Vince knew, because Vince doesn't know anything outside his bubble, but there are people who are working in WWE who definitely knew that event was going on, because they're going to save a hell of a lot of money on trans just for the legends. Let's just be serious about that. But not to cut you off there or disagree, but they probably knew the event was going on, but they also booked this building and this venue way in advance. You just can't call up the Greensboro Coliseum and get a building. It doesn't work that way. So they had this idea at hand. It's not something that was just, let's book it on this Saturday night and let's just call the fine folks up at Greensboro and get the Coliseum. Doesn't work that way.
The thing is that kills me, though, is why haven't they done it the last 2 or 3 years when WrestleCade has been there?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer for that. I really don't. And why haven't they made better use of the old Crockett /NWA/WCW branded programs and names? They're going to be bringing back Clash of the Champions, by the way. That's been announced already.
Yeah, they did that last year.
Yeah, they're going to be using Clash of the Champions again this year. So, maybe we're going to start seeing a little bit of that branding being used again. I don't know. If you're a subscriber to the network, I got with a little survey the other day about that. Oh, yeah. I answered some of the questions related to that, and one of the questions was asking about what kind of programming you're wanting, and they were asking questions about older brands like WCW and ECW and things they have the rights to, and what the interest level was in bringing back some of that nostalgia. So
I look at that question where they go, would you like to see a TB14 WWE ECW? They specifically said a WWE ECW like show, and I'm just like, didn't you try that before you went PG and it failed miserably? I'm sitting here looking at Twitter every single day thinking, okay, with every tweet I see from the sensitive universe going, this is why every single person who begs for the Attitude Era to come back, this is why they're proved wrong. This is why it will never work.
We don't need the Attitude Era.
We don't need TV14.
We just need solid, logical wrestling that makes sense and that makes me want to watch your show.
Like CWF.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you going to go to Starrcade?
It's debatable. I'm thinking about it. We'll see.
I'm thinking.
We'll see.
I'm thinking about it too. I really am. I mean, we got a while to get tickets for it or whatever. The Rumble. My thing is with me doing this podcast and me doing the first time that this is going to be me doing it in a live, quote unquote, live to tape setting. I'm like, I just want FanCon to hurry up and get here.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
know?
And trust me, my nerves are going to be working overtime come FanCon week and Rumble weekend. They're already working overtime. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm working on this weekend towards this. And guys, and out there, this isn't my job. This is something that John, Philip Havage, and myself are doing because we love CWF and we love wrestling and we love interacting with fans. It's a great experience. John and I had been talking about this project basically since the beginning of the year. The possibilities of doing this, and it's all a brainchild of ours and sprang from his experiences of going to the the events associated with ECW, of course, and mine sprang forth from attending, which I didn't get into earlier, but Smoky Mountain Wrestling fan weekends. I was at a lot of Smoky Mountain Wrestling shows as a teenager. Fortunately, I had an older friend who could drive a car, and I was hopping in the car with him and going to cool concerts and cool wrestling at an early age. And as soon as I could get out of my little podunk town that I grew up in of 2 stoplights and no fast food restaurants, I was.
I grew up in Amelia, Virginia. 1 traffic light and 1 McDonald's and 1 grocery store. I feel your pain.
Didn't even have a McDonald's.
Man.
But I grew up close enough to the city. I was like an hour, 10 minutes from Cincinnati, so I could get to Cincinnati. I could get to Huntington, West Virginia. I could get to Columbus, Ohio. I could get to in Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky. I get to these cities where I could see a lot of things. But it was actually during my teen years, hitting the road and going to these small places throughout the hills and the mountains of eastern Kentucky and Tennessee and Virginia to Smoky Mountain Wrestling that really, really piqued my excitement and actually piqued my fandom when it came to interacting with other fans. I started tape trading. I started interacting with different fans. Of course, the co-host with Jim Cornette, Brian Last, we actually got to know each other as teenagers through Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And those parts of those fandoms, and of course John's teen years going to ECW shows and being part of all of CyberSlam and things of that nature at ECW, and I actually attended a couple of ECW shows too as a teenager. I traveled a lot, thankfully, and I can say that those two elements right there are the reason why we had the brainstorm or the brainchild, the idea of doing this event. And as John has said many times over, and I've said many times over, and I think it's kind of temper the mood of what's going to happen, and we're hoping that everything goes off without a hitch. But this is a trial run for us. This is something we're wanting to do just to see how it's going to work and see how many people we can get in. We've already got confirmation from nearly, over 20 people who are going to be involved with the FanCon itself, and we'll probably even have more who will show up. But we have people traveling from all parts. People from Tennessee, Ohio. I've got people coming in from Kentucky, people from Texas, someone from Minnesota. We've got people who are coming in to enjoy what we have deemed our own. Our own promotion, my home promotion, CWF.
I will say that, I envy you and Johnny P in a lot of ways because I grew up, WWE was all I knew. You'd have the indie event, they would come to the county fair, and I would have to practically beg and plead with my mother to give me money to go to this thing. And maybe it's no offense here, but you guys are a couple years older than I am. I'm only 32. So there is, that Smoky Mountain thing was hotter back then, and you guys could understand it a little bit better than I probably could. I didn't know what the indie scene was until I hit my 20s, But to know that now I can go to a place like CWF, like you said, I consider it my home promotion. I was thinking about going to another indie event this weekend in Farmville, Virginia, and the only reason why I want to go is because Casey Carlisle's on the card, and they've quote-unquote signed Shane Douglas if he decides to show. But I'm sitting here going, yes, it's a good chance for me to go hang out with Robert Wells, who's a friend of this show, or a friend of this channel, but I feel like I'm cheating on my wife if I go to any, and that's what amazes me with you being in Charlotte is that you got PWX that runs there once, twice a month.
And I'm there occasionally. And some other shows too. And I mean, I've gone out to see the local Lucha group here. I've gone, out to see some other things, and even some even more off the beaten path promotions. We'll say that are out there. But for me, that drive to to Gibsonville, North Carolina, an hour and 45, 2 hours for me, whatever it may be, is worth it every single time. I walk away from that place saying, you know what, it was worth the drive.
They asked me, the last time I was in that building, I was by myself, and it shocked the hell out of me when Grant said, "Stay there, I'll talk to you." And I got invited to stay. I was like, hey, I'm at the cool kids table now, kind of. So I was like, holy shit. I was marking out inside so hard, he couldn't tell. He probably could, but I was marking out so hard, I was like, I get to stay. And I know it's because I do this after show, and I love the damn product so much. But it's like, I can't imagine myself now going anywhere else. I'll go to WWE if they're in town because that's what I was raised on. A lot of people think I grew up in Richmond, so a lot of people think I was glued to Jim Crockett. I'm like, by the time 85, 86 or whatever, they were on the Superstation. We didn't have it, and I didn't have cable. That's how poor my family was. I didn't have cable. So all I had was Superstars every Sunday on Fox 35 out of Richmond.
Right.
Right after Jerry Falwell, it was Superstars. So, it's one of those things where when people go, oh, you're just a WWE mark. Yeah, because that's what I was raised on. I didn't have access to everything else. The first thing I ever remember was the Ultimate Warrior being on the damn funeral parlor. That's what the first thing I ever saw when it came to wrestling. So wow. I envy you guys when you say you grew up going to Smoky Mountain and meeting people like Brian Last and everything, because now I'm watching it on the network and I'm sitting there going, God, I wish Jim Cornette would give it another try. God, I wish we had something like this. And then I look at CWF and go,
and when I was a kid, I was getting the last remnants of ICW out of Lexington, Kentucky with the Pothos.
Yeah.
I was getting Memphis stuff. I grew up in an area that was really weird. We didn't have a home promotion, so I got this cross section. I was getting the Pothos out of Lexington. I was getting Memphis because I was close enough to Louisville. I was getting Georgia Championship Wrestling because Ole was coming up into Southern Ohio and West Virginia and touring. So I didn't have a home promotion. I just had all these promotions all at once as a little kid, and of course I had WWF as well. So it was a hodgepodge, but it was the best because I didn't. Of course, I was getting eventually Crockett TV. I was getting all this stuff. So I had 5, 6, 7 different things to choose from, plus whatever local stuff was happening. It was amazing, and I'm very thankful for that. I really am thankful for where I grew up as far as it comes to professional wrestling, because I had so much to choose from, really more than I could ever watch. Honestly,
I look at it this way: with the Sportatorium, that's like I walk in there and the rest of the world, my job, everything does not exist when I enter that building.
I feel the same way.
It's some people have that dive that they go into, that nightclub, that bar, that venue that they can go to and escape every single weekend. It's like their local haunt. That Sportatorium is my local haunt. I'm glad that they don't allow beer in there because I don't know if were you there at the show where Cross had to kick them out? I was laughing so hard. I think it was like a bunch of frat guys from Elon came in.
Elon college kids, they came in. Yeah,
with bags, like grocery bags full of beer, and Cross kicked them out. I was like, thank you. It's a family-friendly setting. I don't have to worry about getting drunk fans puking all over me. The only thing we have to worry about is some nacho cheese getting flung at us. It washes out.
Yeah. So, except for on canvases, it doesn't wash out very well.
Oh man, I was like, but I look at that and I go, I hope they didn't kick that woman out because she's a freaking heat magnet, man. That's heat. That shit doesn't exist hardly anymore. That's heat. You know? But, JB, stay on the line with me. I want to talk to you about a couple more things about FanCon off the air that the public doesn't need to hear. But, folks, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you're doing it live or if you're doing it on tape, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Feel free to donate. Donations are always welcome, but it's not a must-do. And we will see you guys, I guess next week on Worldwide we're going to Chapel Hill, but the next time, you know, please come to FanCon. Please get this thing being a regular thing for everybody there. We'd love to see each and every one of you at the Rumble, and we'll see you next week.